will speak about non-human actors in Slovenian drama. I wrote a paper 2 years ago about the ecology and the ways we address the crisis and the coming catastrophe, ecological catastrophe. And I was discussing how literature can stimulate response in the audiences. However, this time I'm more curious about how the presentation of non-human actors or non-nature animals change through time in theater, or more specifically in plays. As we know, theater is based on live human interaction, so the interaction between actors and spectators. But nevertheless, it is not only human actors that are presented on stage. There is also all the time nature, animals sometimes, machines, objects. But traditionally, these non-human elements have served mostly as a background for human stories. In the 21st century, we're facing something that we call... Okay. We're facing something that is called the non-human turn in the humanities, which shifted attention away from the human-centered perspective toward the animals, materiality, technology, and ecosystems. This shift reflects not only in philosophy, but responses also to the climate change and ecological crisis. Here I lean on the thoughts of Richard Grusin in the book The Non-Human Turn. From this book also the contribution of Brian Masumi, The Supernormal Animal, where he discusses how basically animals and humans are more alike than we think, that basically animals can also creatively sort of surpass the present condition and searches for new ways of living and interacting with others. And the third one is Hubert Zapf's article, Culture and Literary Ecology, where Hubert Zapf is discussing the value of literature for cultural ecology on an example of a novel, The Hungry Tide by Amitav Ghosh. He detects several elements that are presented in this novel, and he thinks that those are the elements that can contribute to the present cultural ecology. Those would be ecocultural knowledge, transformative potential, foregrounding of the marginalized, exploration of ecotones, multi-perspectivity, trans-species empathy, ethics of authority, and eco-ambiguity. But a lot of those elements are already inscribed in literature as such as, like for instance, he's speaking about the Bakhtin's term of dialogics in the novel, in a way that literature can sort of bring different perspectives on the topic it speaks about. So I'm asking myself, can we stage non-human actors who remain genuinely non-human, not just as metaphors of human experience? How does the role of these non-human actors change in Slovenian drama through time, and what are the reasons behind this development? To answer those questions, I'm taking 3 examples of Slovenian plays from different periods. First one is written by Dane Zajc, Children of the River, a play that was staged at the beginning of 1960s. The second one written by Gregor Strnisha, entitled Dryad. It was written in the 1970s. And the last one, The Lamb by Neža Lučka Peterlin, that was written in 2025. So it's a very recent play, and I detect how basically non-human actors are presented quite different. Let us start now with Dan Zeiss and his Children of the River. It was written in the early 1960s. It introduces two characters, Dan and River. Dan can be short for Dane, or also means a day. So it could be also two things coming from nature. So two non-human protagonists. They are born from the river's unity, but at the same time they symbolize a lost primordial wholeness, constantly seeking reunion but doomed to fail. Their tragic fate echoes existentialist thought by Albert Camus and Jean-Paul Sartre, where meaning is absent and unity cannot be regained. The river here is not for its own sake, but it is seen as a symbol of human existential condition. Zeiss places non-human actors at the center, but their role remains allegorical, like we've seen with Peter's examples from the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century. Here is one photograph from the first production of this play in the 1960s by Stage 57, and another one that was done much later by VPD Svoboda Gledališkem, so an amateur theatre. Now we move on to Gregor Strniša and his Dryad. It was written a decade later as a radio play, but in the same year staged also in the Slovenian National Theatre. The play opposes the mystical figure of the Dryad to the bourgeois family Pimpek. As Gregor Strniša puts it in the foreword to the play, and I quote here, "In all three images, barely vignettes on the edge of Ljubljana yesterday, the day before yesterday, and today, the title character Dryada stands in the foreground, connecting these different times of turmoil with their ever-changing people, always young and at the same time ancient. More in the background, in accordance with the fundamental genealogical trait, is the distinguished bourgeois family Pimpek, much older than the city of Ljubljana, which it will also outlive, eternal within the boundaries and measures of the world." So we have Dryad on one side, which acts as a catalyst, not an ideal anymore. She opens the window to transcendence, to imagination, to the cosmic awareness, and enables some people who recognize Dryad to see that the life is more than this material world we live in. On the other hand, we have the Pimpeks, which are rooted in this material world, which are also very successful, have the power, but cannot see, the Dryad cannot see the importance of her, neither of this transcendent nature of the world that brings actually the happiness and the full comprehension of what nature the world is. For the characters who recognize the Dryad, she reveals that, and I quote, "In the smallest thing lies the whole universe. Yet society marginalizes and destroys those individuals." Thus, Strniša moves non-human presence from allegory to mediation. The Dryad helps humans and the audience to perceive reality differently, but she doesn't dominate the stage. The third example, Neža Lučka Peterlin. She wrote The Lamb in 2025 and got the award for the best young playwright of the year in the same year. In The Lamb, animals, plants, fungi, and landscapes are not symbols at all. They act, they suffer, and transform within the same world as humans. It has a very fragmented structure. It changes or it mixes different approaches, from parallel monologues to sort of descriptions of landscape, to classical dialogues, and so on. We see a monologue of a bear, an attack on a woman by a wolf, the slow growth of fungi from a corpse, and the cyclical rebirth this is symbolized by the lamp. Here the boundary between human and non-human collapses. So let us look at this first parallel monologue. First is a monologue of a bear waking up in spring, and the other a monologue of a young woman waking up in the morning or in the middle of the night. So the bear says, I open one eye and then the other, and see how the sunbeam slowly and gently spreads across the room. Now is probably the time to move my body. I can't. And the young woman, in contrast, I get up in the morning and feel an unbearable heaviness in my body. In the evening, I can't fall asleep for hours and hours because the contents of my stomach rise up and spread into my esophagus. It hurts and I'm afraid, and because I don't know what to do, I put 3 pillows under my head, wrap myself in a blanket, roll it into a feather ball, and press it against my neck to weigh me down, to protect me, because obviously nothing else will save me. Because we should save ourselves, but no, I just can't do it, and my body terrorizes me every day, every day, every day, every day. So this sort of a contrast between a non-human actor living with nature, or sort of, going with the nature, with changes of time, and a young woman being terrorized by her own body, sort of feeling the pressure. Peterlin embraces the more than human perspective. Theatre becomes a place where animal, plants, and humans share agency. The play reflects ecological thought, not through moral appeals, but through dramaturgy itself. And let us see how this actually is done by looking at one part of this play. After the wolf attacks a young woman, and the wolf slaughters the woman. Here is how it goes. The wolf chews on her teeth a little longer, then gets bored and leaves. The woman's torn body lies on the muddy ground. Thick viscous blood and yellow lymph ooze from it, slowly soaking the earth around the corpse. The larvae retreat. They have eaten their fill and now must pupate so they can become real worms. Meanwhile, a small mushroom grows out of the slimy earth. Then another between the ribs and another near the pelvis. They release carbon dioxide into the air. In a few years, blackberries will bloom above the skeleton. What I'm trying to emphasize here is how non-human actors actually get the control. They're active. And what Nečloveški Peterlin is showing us is basically that we are a part of a larger unity that will survive anyhow. So it's not so much, again, the question of humans being in charge and being responsible for, repairing the nature, but more to being aware that we are a part of something bigger, of nature, what I was trying to say before with this Norwegian play. Awareness that we are also a part of this huge system that we have to respect, and we have to behave accordingly. So, just to give you a quick summing up, comparing the 3 plays, we see a clear evolution. Zeitz in 1960s considers non-human actors as ideals and allegories of existential human condition. Sternisha, 10 years later, sees the non-human actors not as central figures, but as catalysts of imagination and critic of bourgeois materialism. Nečloveški Peterlin in the 2020s has completely a different approach. Non-human actors are equal participants, shaping the dramatic world in their own rights. And this shift mirrors broader intellectual trends, from existentialist allegory through symbolic mediation to ecological relationality. So to conclude, Slovene drama shows us how non-human actors can move from metaphors of human existence to true participants in drama. Theatre as cultural ecosystem becomes a laboratory for imagining new relations between humans and non-humans, which is a vital task in times of